Hello again. It's been a while since I've made one of these videos. I usually wait until I'm really inspired, until I have some sort of a breakthrough, a deeper understanding of some subject that really motivates me to share in this format. And so I've had one of these epiphanies, and so I would love to share with you. The subject I want to speak to you about is expectations. Expectations, if you think about it, many people feel they're pretty aware of the meaning of expectations, or what it might mean, or like our relationship to expectations. But I want to present a concept that maybe could be new, or maybe it might deepen a perspective. So what I discovered recently, with help of a friend, you could say, is to reflect back to me my expectations. One of the things that I feel is really important, especially when we're little, is something called mirroring. So mirroring is essentially when our caretakers, they reflect back to us what they see from us. So, for example, when we're little and like the baby laughs, for example, giggles, mom has a positive response on her face, right? So she smiles, and then when a baby is sad, the mom kind of mirrors back and goes, "Oh, you're sad," right? So these types of experiences, they're really important for the baby and then a growing person to kind of get to know themselves. That's why it's called mirroring, is because we have someone who has consciousness reflect something back to us to show us what we are experiencing, to help us connect to what we're experiencing. This is why it's so important in therapy. When a good therapist, part of the process of a good therapist is really reflecting back to the person, what that person is feeling, helping them connect to their feelings. On the flip side of that, if you're dealing with someone who is not very loving and has alternate motives, they can use mirroring, false mirroring, to manipulate you or control you. So what that looks like is, if, for example, I have low self-worth and I feel like I'm a total shit, anytime someone doesn't like what I'm doing or how I'm being, all they need to do is reflect back to me that I'm a total shit, and thus control my behavior, right? So for example, this happens when we're little as well. If a child speaks up, if a child shows their anger or emotion of some sort that the parent doesn't like, all the parent has to do is just say, "You're a bad boy," or "You're a bad girl." And then the child will start associating that behavior with that feeling. So anytime they speak up, they feel like they're a bad boy or a bad girl. And then as they grow up, they can get into relationships where someone does that. They can just say, "You're doing this wrong, you're bad," and with an intention to control the person. Now, in my experience, what I had with my friend was I received mirroring not to be controlled, but to be reflected on. And so what it was something that I was doing. I was in expectation for this person to change how they are to make me feel more comfortable. So this is what I want to talk about. When we have expectations, and I guess you could call them unloving expectations, because I think certain expectations are healthy, and I'm still working that out. But for the most part, Unloving expectations are when we are uncomfortable or triggered by some behavior another person is doing. Now, it doesn't matter, for the most part, at this point, whether they are completely, loving, considerate. They could do something that is not in harmony with love and care and consideration, right? But what happens to us is what's important here. So if, for example, I'm in a relationship with a woman who gets angry, right? In my righteousness, I can get angry back at her and say, don't you get angry at me. Don't you dare get angry at me. It's not okay for you to get angry at me, right? And so we kind of set boundaries. And I think a lot of us get trapped in that, where we are trying to control the unloving behavior of another person. And I think this is the issue here with expectations. Expectations, from my understanding, is our desire and attempt to control our environment from triggering us. Control the environment from bringing up those uncomfortable feelings within us. Right? So for example, if I grew up and I wasn't listened to, right? So my parents, for example, let's say they weren't interested in listening to me. If I find a partner who's a little dissociated, who doesn't pay attention, is up in the clouds, I will get triggered. Right? Now, it is loving to pay attention to somebody, right? To give them your attention. It is a loving thing. But what happens is we have expectations that we are being paid attention to. And if those expectations are not met, we get angry. And we can project those expectations on the person by saying, well, you weren't paying attention. You're wrong by doing that, right? What we're missing is the part that comes up in us, inside of us, that is in resistance to the feeling of the pain of that expectation not being met. So anytime that someone pays attention to me, I feel great, and they're my friend. Anytime they don't pay attention to me, I get angry because they have not met my expectation of being paid attention to. And with that logic, I can justify not feeling my pain, but to tell them that they're wrong for not paying attention to me. Isn't that interesting? So, to get freedom, actually, what I realized, freedom and boundaries, is when you release your own expectations of other people through releasing of your own pain, right? Because if you want to heal, you have to feel the pain that's there. Honestly feel it. Get angry, hit shit, break things, learn how to connect with the trauma that you've experienced, express it in a healthy way. You have a therapist if you need to help you with that. But once you've released your expectations on other people, now you can actually speak to this person who's not paying attention and say, hey, when I talk to you, I don't really feel you there. And I'm wondering, what's happening that I can't connect with you. So, and this can come from a more compassionate place to really try to understand them, or you could say, maybe you can choose to not speak to them because you see that they're not ready to connect with you yet, and just once again feel the pain of that, the pain of not being able to connect to someone you love because they're simply not there, not available. So this is what I've discovered, is this relationship with expectations. The simple approach that I figured out, or come up with, is I wrote a list of all my expectations of other people, and underneath the expectation there's anger, and underneath the anger there's fear, and underneath the fear there's pain. And once you feel the pain, you are released and no longer in prison of your own trauma. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below so we can continue this discussion, as I feel it's so rich. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Till next time.